Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today. In this session today, I'm joined by Charlie, Natalie, Tiago, and Stuart. In our discussion today, we're going to focus on the value of Microsoft Teams and how to be successful in transforming how your company collaborates. Recently, we've seen a significant trend in transformation of how people work and the tools they're using to achieve this. The concept of distributed and hybrid working is now the new norm, and companies are more focused than ever on delivering a great employee experience from any location, always making sure that all participants are on equal footing, no matter where they're joining from and how they're participating in any kind of collaboration. As we look further ahead and are more employees now, we're looking at things like return to the office and how we can make that safe for people, and looking at kind of the wellness of people's employees as well. It's key that we design the right solutions with the right consideration for employees. Microsoft Teams has a significant role to play in this, as providing a great base for that new employee experience and actually that productivity hub that's central to people's business and actually part of that workflow as we go forward. In this session, we'll run through some of the learnings that we found as NTT, both internally and through our service delivery to clients, but also have Tiago here from Siemens to give his version of events from Siemens and some of the great things that they've done there, and also Stuart from our own internal IT team as well, to talk you through some of the journey we've been on as a company too, and how we really drink our own champagne in what we talk about to clients. So firstly on that one, Charlie, let's start with you. What have you seen recently as kind of some of the biggest trends that we're seeing that's transforming clients to Microsoft Teams?
I think, Phil, with the return to work, you look at the different ways people are communicating in this new normal, and one of the things that has been very clear is you have asynchronous and synchronous ways that you're communicating, and they have different sense of urgency, right? You have a point-to-point call that you could do in something like Microsoft Teams. You have meetings that you're in all day, and then you have the kind of priority, which is the PSTN call, which still has a very important role to play when you talk to a customer, when you have a serious conversation with your manager, when you're reaching out to a partner. And all those different types of communication methods, now that people are going back into the office, need to have different support models behind them. And also they need to be integrated so you can provide the necessary analytics. So many customers are looking at what is out there. Obviously, Teams has just been a hurricane of success with enterprises adopting it during the lockdown. And now they're looking to bring all that together into a cloud model and depreciate their old data centers that they had running that are no longer needed. So one of the most common things that we're seeing right now is we have new services out there like Operator Connect, which NTT is a part of this program, where we can actually be an operator on the back end of Teams, which allows customers to have that partnership with the telco that they've always had, but have an embedded operational model and an embedded list of portals to use. Because it can be quite confusing for IT and procurement teams in trying to figure out, do I need a third-party portal? What kind of remote monitoring tools do I need? How do I keep any hardware running that I still need to keep running under the same support model? And what are my SLAs in this new world? How do I continue with business continuity? So that's most of the questions we're getting is as an Operator Connect partner, as a direct routing partner, as a managed Teams partner, and a general Microsoft partner, looking at that roadmap, how does that apply to this new way of working, maintain business continuity in a secure and serviceable way?
Cool, brilliant, Charlie. So what would you say is part of that, Charlie? What are you seeing as some of those like key triggers that's really driving people to the cloud, and why they're driving it, and actually some of those additional workloads? But also, what are you seeing kind of those benefits that they're kind of seeing from that?
I think there's three key areas, right? You have your cost savings, right? There's no need to have so many support models and so much dependency on individual data centers and servers when you can have everything in one supportable model. And then the second is that usability and looking at the extended functionality of consuming services like Microsoft Teams from Azure, and what that gives you from a functionality perspective and an analytics perspective as well. And I guess the third part of it is really taking advantage of your investments and that ROI behind those investments. Something like Microsoft Teams, you've already bought a service, and many customers already have some of these functionalities in their licensing with Microsoft. And when you turn on that functionality with a partner, you actually don't need a lot of the expensive hardware or expensive operational models that you have underneath that. So I think that's driving a lot of companies to migrate to the cloud. And once you're there, you really can get a pulse of your business. You can take a look at how everyone's communicating in this new world, and on top of that, add different initiatives like IT sustainability, You can add efficiencies in how people are communicating and how they're spending their time, employee wellness, with things like Microsoft Viva coming into play.
Brilliant. So as NTT, Charlie, how are we seeing or what are we doing and how are we helping clients on that journey? How do we set it up for success? So how do we actually help clients get to that journey and get there sooner and as I always like to say, accelerate the value for clients quicker?
I think what we're doing for a lot of companies is making sure that we have kind of 3 areas of focus that can help them get not only to a supportable model in the cloud, but to get there fast and to get there in a safe manner. And the first thing is industrializing how we work and how we get customers to the cloud and passing that value to our customers. So industrialized workshops, industrialized templates. And we do this through something we have that's called Cloud Deployment Framework, which is a series of frameworks based on vertical and customer size that allows us to get to the bottom of things that take months for customers to unravel. The second is really understanding our partner roadmap and having all the business critical programs as part of our roadmap so we can help customers accelerate that research. So being very close to Microsoft, we're a gold partner. We're on a number of TAP programs, and so things like Operator Connect or our co-development projects. And this allows us to take the customer and take a look at individual use cases and really fast forward that. And the third is having supportable models in the cloud, because some customers may not know that if they move something like voice to the cloud, they still might need a bit of hardware in there for support, like a local SBCs or analog support, DECT phone support, things like that. And how do I have one support model for all of that put together so I can have a partner that can provide those SLAs and business continuity for us. So we do all that through our cloud deployment framework, where we take customers through that journey very fast, and we work to get them to see exactly what the cost would be, what is the support model going to look like, and what type of functionality you're going to have day one.
Brilliant. Thanks, Charlie. I'll probably just kick it over to Natalie. So I suppose, Natalie, from your standpoint of some of the work you've been doing, what have you seen where we're helping clients in sort of some of the key verticals with particular things around where they've got requirements around compliancy and what we're seeing in that area?
Yes, definitely lately the explosion of regulations, of technologies, and the global reach of cloud has brought some complexity on how to approach compliance in companies, as they know as well that they can face strong penalties if they don't comply with even the regulation in their industry. Say in the finance, we have regulations such as MiFID II, where you really need to be tracking every single interaction that you would have in your activity. There's GDPR as well. There's PCI DSS regulations. So all these regulations really need to be assessed and approached with the right solution, and definitely having a cloud solution that we deliver to help them comply and avoid facing strong penalties is something that we want to do, and we are ready for that within Teams.
So with that, Natalie, what would you sort of recommend as an approach that clients can take to that, and how should they go about that? Is it a technology decision, or is it actually around a sort of a risk-based approach?
So it would start, I suggest we start with 3 little questions, actually. It's in which industry do I work, which company, which regulation my company is facing. Second one is how can I use the technology to help me comply with these standards and regulation. And lastly, how can I prove that I actually comply? So these 3 little questions will bring some internal assessment and identify what is the solution that the customer is looking for and how he can have it hosted within his solution, that is Microsoft Teams.
Perfect. No, it makes total sense, Natalie. I suppose then, Tiago, if we kind of move to yourself and just look at, so from your experience with Siemens, taking account kind of the work you've been doing over the last 12 months and the journey Siemens has been on, can you give us like a high level overview of kind of the journey you've been on with Siemens and some of the key steps you've had to take in your journey to Microsoft Teams?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be here. I would say that when answering to you, I would say that the one of the most important things is to know how your company or the company that you are working for behaves as a living being, and prepare yourself and your work together with the different sides of the implementation in a way that you need to have a strong governance plan that will allow you to plan correctly. On the other hand, on a company like Siemens, by its size, there are several compliance checks and that you need to understand and have the right people with the right knowledge to be available to support you on that area.
Perfect. So sounds brilliant, Tyler. So what would you say as you were going through that journey? What was the approach you took? What was the process you went through? One around the planning of teams, and then actually the steps you went through as a company to achieve that.
Well, connecting to what I said before, having the knowledge is the key to embrace and design a good plan in order to avoid all, or as much as possible, all the potential delays and hurdles that you will face, and for sure can and will happen in such a huge transformation like the one that we went through. Siemens comes from a well-established on-premise RTC solution that was way well accepted by everybody at the company. And what we did was, and shifting to unified communications tools such as Teams, that is really much more than just an RTC tool and can be seen almost like a future operating system, or the tool that you log in and that you stay throughout all of your day for most of the use cases. And we need to prepare yourself, your team, and the people that work with you with the right knowledge to have and enable a good and robust planning.
Cool. So Charlie, I might just ask you, because you've worked closely with Tiago on the Siemens project. What's some of the main things I'd say from an entity standpoint that were key to kind of driving some of that success within Siemens?
Well, I think a lot of it is, Siemens had to act very quickly during the pandemic and had to activate users. And I think Tiago, it was a couple of days. You had to roll out to hundreds of thousands of users. So what we did is we acted as an overflow of their IT team to help take on the burden of tickets and things like that can help keep that service healthy. And then we find out little areas where we can add help based on customer feedback. And one of the things that we actually started creating is knowledge bases to help users be more effective in the way they communicate after that massive adoption curve that hit. And this means that Siemens now can add on additional functionality because the adoption is there, but also people are using it in the right ways. They're not just creating teams to create teams. They're creating teams because that's a way of working, and chat's a way of working, and calling's a way of working. So I think the way we help them is really to help with that overflow to start, just to make sure that we were being a partner in that journey, and then we found a lot more opportunities later.
Yeah, and connecting to what you were saying, Charlie, I would say that one of the key differentiators on our implementation was also the idea that we had to prepare good and reliable communication to increase the transparency within our end users. That was really important because we involve people. We create, pioneers groups for people to start, knowing the tool, preparing themselves, and be able to use those persons as our message senders, let's put it this way, on a way to take doubts out of other colleagues and all of that. We have still Yammer campaigns that we do weekly at least. We review and give feedback to questions that end user give to us. So the transparency promotion that we added to this planning and to this implementation was also very important for us.
I suppose, Tiago, an interesting question would be, how have you found your user base from obviously that initial rollout of Teams and how they were using it? How would you say adoption's changed? Is it being used now more business process side of things, or being more widely adopted? Has it had an impact on how, say, employees with Siemens work today?
Well, we went with an initial step with replacing and focusing only on RTC. but Teams is much more than that. So we started by addressing that need, immediate need with implementing Teams, and then started escalating. And the scalability of a tool like Teams allows us for you to do that on almost at the rhythm that you want to, and enabling all of that, the integration with Exchange on-prem and online, and SharePoint and OneDrive. All of that was a combined effort, because Teams is a visible face of a lot of tools that it depends on, and it shows off a lot of the other tools. And in a company like Siemens, M365 is a big decision, and we have been now rolling out more and more services and more capability to ensure that the adoption is real and effective, and not giving everybody everything at the same time. It would probably create more chaos than anything else.
Definitely. So I suppose with that, Thiago, what would you say for obviously the attendees today? What kind of some of that, sort of the key things that you've learned from that others could take away to have a successful migration or successful transformation and adoption of Teams?
I would say that it combines with what I've been saying. Understand your company, know how it reacts to change. That's very important. Then involve as much as possible your user base, involve your colleagues, create small groups to test, train them well, discuss with them, allow them to be your mirror, acting as almost like a mirror of yourself, to let the information flow in a more one-to-one or face-to-face type of approach, and keep being transparent. And you need to prepare yourself and your team to be resilient, because it's not an easy task when doing an implementation for 300,000 end users. So 300,000 colleagues is not something easy to do with limited resource that every company has. So you need to prepare yourself and be able to change focus rapidly and address the challenges that will occur for sure, in order to get back to plan and to keep executing and implementing.
Perfect. Thanks, Thiago. So I'll just kick over now to Stuart as well. So I think for those attending, or for those that don't know, NTT ourselves, we've been on a sort of a journey of integration with a number of companies. I think it's over 30 companies that have been migrated together. It's fair to say, Stuart, you've kind of been on the forefront of this from a transformation of platform standpoint. So
yeah,
it's probably worth it to give us an overview of kind of what we've been going through and some of the challenges that you in particular faced as part of this.
Yeah, no, the complexity is huge, Phil. As you just mentioned, 30 plus companies and 30 plus different type of UC platforms. You name it, we had it within our business, and probably even multiple instances within those different businesses. So when we decided some years ago, whenever we were doing the planning and decided on Microsoft Teams as the target platform, the vision then was for a world-class employee collaboration platform, right? That gives you all the key features, that frictionless employee experience, scalability, and all everything that comes with that. But when we then started to accelerate with Microsoft Teams, and start to roll it out, for us, that transformation of integrating NTT Limited was huge. So as you said, 30 plus businesses, we need everyone to feel part of the same family. So Microsoft Teams did help us do that, because everyone then had one single platform to move to. Everyone was on that same environment, and then we started to ingest and bring in all of the voice part side of it. With that, we used our cloud deployment framework that guided us throughout the entire project, and we were client zero. We used the exact same framework that we use for Siemens and for everyone else. We used it on ourselves and tested it on ourselves first, and just some feedback from our perspective. It was great for us to go through that detailed process. There were some things that we fixed along the way, which helped other clients, which is exactly what it's there for. But in terms of that usability and flexibility, that was the best thing for our business at the time. The cloud deployment framework gave every single affiliate the chance to review their environment, to give us feedback on what they were looking for from the target platform, and then make sure that we grabbed all of those requirements along the way. Everyone was it was very much a similar sort of requirements gathering perspective, but it allowed us that process to bring everyone together and on that same journey. So, as we went through the process over the last year of executing and delivering upon it, for us, it was really, really key. It was almost our Bible of how we were going to do stuff. The deployment team stayed the same. The cloud entity cloud communications team worked extremely closely with us throughout, and we still are going through and tidying up some extra services that we've now layered upon it. But make no mistake, as we went through this, it wasn't a like-for-like replacement at all. And Tiago's probably been the same. If you've got 20,000 users here today, you're not going to be bringing 10,000, 20,000 on to the platform, because you're going to look to how can I reduce costs. So there was that number crunching was really key to us to understand those platforms. Some other learnings upon the way, compliance, as Natalie was talking about. So for us, we had to get it past our workers' councils first, because it's a change in the way that people use the platform. It's a change in tools. So you have to make sure that you're explaining what this brings to the employee and to the business. And we've met a few other compliance challenges along the way, lots of learnings, lots of different ways that the emergency services make calls in different countries and also different states. It's been a massive learning experience for us, but one that I think it's the pitfalls of understanding it, right? Those are the bits that you're going to remember along the way.
No, totally. And I know, Stuart, we've discussed this a lot around some of the compliance things, and by using cloud deployment framework, we actually found some things we were potentially doing internally that we potentially shouldn't have been doing in certain areas. So how we kind of flagged those and how the process kind of found those and managed those. Charlie, it's probably worth just kicking to you and kind of get your view of this, because I know in a way everyone laughs using kind of drinking our own champagne, but actually I think we can be our own worst critics as well. So Stuart and Charlie, obviously I think you're both still talking to each other. Delivery. So Charlie, I don't know if you want to call out some sort of highlights that you've had from that process and from working with the internal team as well.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we came across together was something that happens to many enterprises out there, or any size customer, is that you'll have some sites that have a bit of shadow IT in there, where they're having a relationship with a local carrier, or they're having a relationship with a local collaboration vendor. They have I think many companies in there have mixture of Teams and Zoom and things like that out there. And so when you're going through, you have to have this governance of what is the cost savings when you move those sites to a centralized service, both from a service layer, from a call plan layer, and what is the SLAs behind that service, and how does that service function, and is an embedded way of you working with leavers and joiners as well. So how do you profile the users to just determine who gets a mobile number, who gets a Teams DDI, who gets a contact center modality, who gets a attendee console, who's a VoIP user, who's a first line worker. And I think that during the pandemic, we found that there was very different use cases of phone minutes based on people going back into the office, then coming back home, then going back to the office again. So it was more, how do we look at those volumes? And I think Stuart was excellent in guiding us on us looking at that telco spend and those sites, and how we can actually sell it to those regions, because you do have to do a level of convincing in a lot of companies to get them to be on board to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. I mean, you're right, Charlie. Every single time we went to a different country, different region, it was the same thing. But we got to that point where we had a framework where it was, these are the savings, these are the benefits, and come on, let's kind of crack on and make sure that we can make this the best experience possible. But you had to make sure that you had the answers to all these questions. The likes of attendant console and stuff. In the beginning, we were like, okay, yeah, we understand what it does, but in actual fact, how important that came to towards the project when we got into the nitty gritty, and that kind of shadow IT piece that we've seen along the way, it really did bail us out of a lot of situations.
I suppose it's interesting, Stuart. Question from me, and one I'm quite attached to is so looking forward, and especially when we start looking at return to the office and kind of being able to interact more as well. What's some of the things you've looked at, especially around kind of the meeting rooms and video interop in particular, is kind of looking at that, and obviously coming from a mixed estate as well of what we're looking at, that kind of future direction with Microsoft Teams?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we haven't stayed still throughout the pandemic. That was one of the key things that we did for our offices, was to make sure that the video estate that we had. So we had a lot of Cisco video, and it was about how we then brought that together into Microsoft Teams to make sure we had that frictionless experience. So using CVI to bring those two clouds together. There was also a second, there was a stage first, which was to cloud enable every single VC device across the globe. So a lot of them were internally registered. We now had to make these externally registered as well. So there was a huge amount of testing and change control in order to make that happen. But then we also had to make sure that the engineers could get in to test all of this. So during the pandemic, that was quite tricky, but you know, we're pretty much there now. So the experience is a really good one, using Teams as the platform and then using our existing video estate to connect back into that. It's the same experience across the board in that respect.
Yeah, Tiago, I'm actually keen to get your view on that, on any changes that you're looking to as Siemens, as we look at kind of returns to the office and more people coming into the office spaces themselves, and anything sort of key things that you're looking to do with Teams as part of that too.
Well, sort of. We are working and playing with our Power BI capabilities in order to analyze and start considering what are the real adaptations that even on a real estate thing, what we can do exactly to ensure that we do have enough meeting rooms for people to meet, redesign the spaces based on usability knowledge that we can get and work on via tools like Power BI and stuff like that, you know, to prepare as much as possible to a safe as possible return back to the office. That's something that we currently have some minor projects that we are working on exactly to ensure that.
Perfect. Also, Tiago, I know some of the things you've been doing at Siemens, but as we're looking at kind of some of that adoption elements that you're looking at and how you actually deliver a service internally as well, it'd be good if you could just like take us through some of the elements you've been looking at from a self-service standpoint and taking advantage of some of the kind of the Azure chatbot technology and AI capabilities as well.
Well, we are currently developing something that I don't want yet to make that much public, let's put it this way, but we are working on as much as possible on automation, enable as much as possible and increase the adoption and the acceptance rates that we do have. And we do have our own internal evaluation tools. And one of the mandates that I have from my management is exactly, we are rated from 0 to 5, and Teams has been always, and it's the objective to be 4.x, and we never got below 4.0, and currently already numbers from this month put us on 4.2, and that's really a very good number. There's always room to improve for sure. But we do have this goal that we never got below that 4.x minimum, and we are always somewhere in between 4 and 4 dot something. The automation wise, obviously we have been more careful. Let's put it this way, because we don't want to give just to give, to say that we are doing a lot of automation. There are a lot of things that we are doing on the background, but we want to give good and strong steps when investing and showing something to people, that it's something that real can create something, and not just have the automation as a buzzword. Oh, we are doing some automation or stuff like that, and then it doesn't translate into anything palpable that eases or makes the life of our colleagues more seamless. So strong steps are being taken, still not that much visible, but there's a lot of automation already in the background that is working and making sure that everybody feels happy and stays happy with the service.
Perfect. I suppose, Stuart, with our own sort of internal process, and also how we've seen kind of our business adapt now that they've got comfortable with Teams and how things are changing. Can you kind of give some comment on how you're seeing like usage trends and how different teams and units are kind of taking advantage of the tools now from Teams?
No, absolutely. You're right there, and that's been one of the key drivers, is that automation and simplification. So using a lot of the Power Apps tools. But one of the things our tech adoption team does is we do consultant engagements with the business units to look at how they work and then to improve, or to see how the technology can help them improve and focus their time more on our clients. So one of the key call outs that we've done recently is looking at the way when we're bringing on new clients, how that process works and how long it takes. And for us, I think we in some of the countries, we calculate something like 2,000 hours a month just by using some of the automation platform that we've already got with, and using Teams to send out a lot of these notifications. We've also been using an internal and an external bot. So, you know, if we want to look at our warehousing stock, stuff like that, you can use Teams to then look that up. And from an external perspective, you know, clients can then come through our e-store platform. They can not only purchase stuff, but also then speak to consultants and engineers. So you can essentially then buy some pre-sales time, and Teams will then connect you directly through to that engineer or that consultant, which is quite a cool thing that we've done recently.
That sounds very cool. So Charlie, it'd be good to kind of get your view on this as well, around kind of what we're looking at from how we deliver services to clients. And you mentioned earlier some of the sort of new technology from Microsoft around Viva, Operate Connect. How are we looking at that feeding into our service, and how we can help clients deliver that improved employee experience through some of that new capability that's available to us?
Well, I think a lot of it has enabled us to move a lot faster. You know, there used to be a lot of manual configuration with things like direct routing, and also there's been a lot of manual dashboards you had to build to really get your analytics. And a lot of customers that were existing between islands of services, it was really hard to pull that data to look at your employee experience and to look at that health and everything like that. So the reason why Operator Connect was so critical to us is the team's native reporting is really good. You can tell, you can see when people are in meetings, you can see when people are chatting, you can see when they're sharing files. However, with the PSTN services, they might have different types of connections into teams in different areas, and so you couldn't really consolidate that into one report. So with Operator Connect, we actually have our backbone plugged directly through Azure Peering into Microsoft's cloud. So all of our data on that PSTN backbone, so whether it's contact center or Teams, can be sent through that channel going into the future. So basically, we can send that and add that data, so you're seeing the end-to-end employee data. So that can be then fed into future workflows, whether you're looking at CRM, whether you're looking at Viva or other analytics dashboards and things like that. So I think what's important for a lot of businesses to look at right now is, if you're moving to the cloud with a partner, make sure that the tools that they're using have a 5 to 10 year longevity. So it gives Microsoft the freedom to develop and give you anything in Azure to play with, and it will actually work with your voice systems, with your compliance tools, like Nathalie said, and other things as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Charlie. So I think, guys, great feedback today, and hopefully the audience, you've kind of enjoyed the feedback. So what I just wanted to do with everyone is just kind of do a wrap up, and it'd be good from each of you to kind of get like a key takeaway from all of you, and what you would say is kind of a key point that you found, or from your experience, that would help a client with their transformation. So Tiago, I think I'll start with you.
I would say that mine is divided somehow. I would say that the key takeaway is transparency with end users, along with a very robust planning. That's the thing, I would say. Yeah.
Perfect. Stuart?
Well, for me, it was mainly around the data quality, you know, with the 30 plus businesses, understanding that. So understanding your data and putting it into a format that you can then show the value of what Teams is going to bring you. But then also around that planning side. So, you know, as Nathalie was talking about compliancy and understanding workers' councils, those are key things and key conversations that you need to have. And then on top of that, as Tiago said, there's two streams. And for us, technology adoption, that change management was so key.
Perfect. Nathalie?
Yes. the journey should start with a really internal assessment involving HR, finance, infosec, to make sure that you understand the laws and regulation your company needs to be compliant with, and identify how to answer to those compliance requirements, leveraging either Microsoft licenses or compliance solutions, like we've been talking about compliance recording solution for the communication part, and making sure that you will be able to prove you comply with the requirements you need to, with the standards you need to reach within your industry.
Perfect. Charlie?
I think the biggest piece is in transformation products, try to lower the amount of additional data storage portals that you're working with, because basically once you've moved to the cloud, you have an enormous mine of data that you can work from to see the pulse of your business. So really try to look at ways that you're getting everything into one reportable, actionable, turnkey analytics service that you can learn more about your business afterwards. So I think it's critical to really do the research on who you're working with and what they're putting in the mix, that it doesn't take that data away from your access in the future.
Great, thanks, Charlie. And I suppose from my standpoint, I think for me, for teams as well, it's understanding the opportunity, not just from a core collaboration platform, but what else it can and what tools it gives you in kind of that wider collaboration play. And also how you can then start integrating into your business process and really understanding and taking full advantage of the investment you've made and getting the ROI from your Microsoft 365 investment. So perfect. So with that, I'll say thank you for the four of you participating with me today, and thank you for everyone that's joined the discussion today on cloud transformation to Microsoft Teams, and how we've hopefully brought up or given you some good thinking or some key considerations when looking at your transformation and driving a successful outcome for that. What I will do, and I'll push you all towards within the LinkedIn Live page. There's a link that's being put up shortly by Emmeline, and you can see on the screen now. So you'll be able to find sort of additional information and thought leadership that you can consume. And also, if anyone would like to engage with us further, you can do so through that link or through the LinkedIn Live page, or reach out to each one of us individually, because our profiles are on there. More than happy to address any questions that we have from anybody or any help that anyone's looking for. And with that, again, thanks again for everyone that's attended. And in closing, we're just going to play a short video that demonstrates the power of Microsoft and Microsoft Teams and some work we're doing in schools in South Africa that helps give children an equal opportunity. So with that, thanks again, and speak to everybody soon.
Great things
Bye,
change
everybody.
things. Lockdown in South Africa means that many school children could simply fall behind. With smart collaboration tools from Microsoft, we're making sure that every child has an equal chance. Preparing for a brighter future. That's a great thing.